Welcome to Dark Horizon Creations. I'm Mike, and tonight we're taking a look at the Star Wars The Vintage Collection Shadow Stormtrooper. Now, the Shadow Troopers are one of my favorite characters within the Star Wars universe, and they are my favorite iteration of the Imperial Stormtroopers themselves. We've seen a lot of different types of Stormtroopers throughout the years, but the Shadow Trooper hasn't had as much attention as some of the other ones that we've seen. The last time I recall this figure being released was in 2008, and I picked it up at an area Walgreens store at that time. Now they're in the vintage collection, and fans have wanted to see this figure re-released, and here we have it. And I'm very appreciative of Hasbro for bringing this figure back. So if you're not familiar with the Shadow Stormtroopers, they originated in the Star Wars Expanded Universe. That's all of the published material prior to Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm in 2012. After that time, Disney and Lucasfilm both started going through the Expanded Universe and selecting certain aspects, characters, and things, and incorporating them into their new canon history / storyline for Star Wars. And the Shadow Troopers are among some of those elements that have been carried over. And I'm really glad that they've decided to do that. There's a lot of history and lore there with these guys that can be brought to the forefront. Now, Shadow Troopers, of course, are a distinct and separate operational unit within the Stormtrooper Corps. They are special operations units that are tasked with highly classified missions for the Empire. Generally speaking, they carry out direct action missions against the Rebel Alliance and their supporters and sympathizers. They will eliminate or snatch and grab high-value targets like diplomats, government leaders, presidents of whole worlds, ambassadors, and military leaders in the Rebel Alliance. Those are some of the targets that they go after. They also will take out high-value military targets like listening posts, communication relays, installations that the Alliance may have set up on remote worlds. Anything that requires the Empire to operate in a non-permissive environment, they would send Shadow Troopers in to carry out that task. The other special operations unit within the Galactic Empire that we're all familiar with are the Death Troopers, which are a separate detachment from Shadow Troopers. They are their own separate operational unit that are tasked with a completely different mission. So that's a little bit of the history behind Shadow Troopers, and you can see this is a really nicely packaged figure. The Kenner logo that really stands out. I love the Kenner packaging from the original figures, and the A New Hope logo with Luke and Leia at the top. And this figure comes with a E11D blaster carbine that all Stormtroopers carry, as well as a DLT-19 heavy repeating blaster rifle. And that really makes this set. I'm glad to see two weapons included with this figure. The card back, of course, has your obligatory product shots of the other figures in this line. There have been a lot of quality control issues with Rey and Poe and Luke on their head sculpt. Just being really whack, to be honest with you, just really terrible. So when you go out and pick up these figures, and I've done this for years, stop and look at all the details on the figure. Pay attention to the head sculpt. Are the eyes off? Is the nose and the mouth off? Did they come out of the mold correctly? I've seen a couple of the Luke figures that did not come out of the mold correctly. And those are quality control issues that should be addressed at the factory. And I think one of the reasons we're seeing that with this assortment that come out of Triple Force Friday is due to the fact that Hasbro moved their factory from China to Vietnam. They switched production sites to kind of escape some of these tariffs that have been placed on China by the United States. And that may have something to do with quality control. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pause the video, remove the figure from the packaging. We'll come back and see what it's all about. Stay tuned. Alright guys, we're back with the Star Wars, the Vintage Collection Shadow Stormtrooper. And as you can see, this is a really nice looking figure outside of the packaging. It's got a lot of nice detailing and some metallic accents on different areas. One of the things I want to point out is the attention to detail on his helmet. Get the camera to come into focus. There we go. You can see the metallic accents there. His lens on his helmet, and going across the front there. The vocoders on the front, as well as those grill looking sections on the side of the helmet. All of those are in like a gunmetal gray. And you can see the metallic accents there on the magazine pouch, as well as down here under his chest where these computer controls are for the environmental controls on his suit. And you can see the detail on the back and here on the body glove underneath the armor, as well as on his blaster carbine. Now if you look at his carbine, I don't know if you can see this right here, but there is a glow lamp molded into the side of the carbine. And that's something that they started with Rogue One with those figures, and I really, really like that. And if you're not familiar with Star Wars nomenclature and you don't know what a glow lamp is, that is the Star Wars term for a flashlight. And beginning with Rogue One, when they were filming it, they started attaching tactical lights to all of the blaster rifles and carbines. And that just added a level of realism to it that we haven't previously seen in Star Wars. Even tonight I was watching Chapter 3 of The Mandalorian, and the remnant stormtroopers inside the building, they had glow lamps attached to their blasters. And the one of these stormtroopers even had an E-22 repeating blaster that we saw in Rogue One. So I found that very interesting. The other thing that I like that Hasbro does that you can see here is that they mold the index finger to go within the trigger guard. They have the trigger finger molded to wrap around the trigger, and I really, really like that. That just adds a level of realism that you normally don't see on some of the 5 POA figures. So the other accessory that is included is the DOT-19 heavy repeating blaster. And you can see it here. It's molded all in black, and I'll probably wind up weathering it. I usually weather all of the blasters and accessories on the figures themselves. As far as articulation, I'm going to move this shoulder pauldron back because that's really the only way to get the full area of rotation out of his right shoulder. But you can see they have the standard 26 points of articulation. And if you wonder where I get that number, some people use both sides of the figure and count all the points of articulation. Some just count one. So really, you count their head joint as well. The head's on a nice ball joint, and the chest rotation or waist swivel, whichever they are equipped with. And he'll move forward and laterally at the hip and thigh there. Double jointed knees. And I would recommend being careful when you bend these because the joints are tight. And just recently on a Black Series figure, I actually broke the arm and the leg off of the figure trying to rotate them. I still don't know why that happened. But these joints here at the leg are really, really stiff. There you go. Now they'll move. But that's something I like. I really appreciate tight joints on the figures. I don't want them being loose. So since I have this figure out of the packaging, I wanted to do a brief side-by-side comparison with another figure for scale. This is one of the 5 POA Death Troopers from the Rogue One assortment. And as you can see, the Death Trooper is slightly taller than the Shadow Stormtrooper. and that's to scale. The Death Troopers are taller. They usually select troopers who have greater height for these roles because they're augmented with cybernetics underneath their armor. And I really, really like the way these two guys go together. So there you have it, the Star Wars The Vintage Collection Shadow Stormtrooper. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video review. If you haven't followed and subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. Please also visit my Facebook page and like it, Dark Horizon Creations. I'm on Instagram. I've recently started a new venture, Rogue Tactics. Rogue Tactics is on Facebook, and it's going to be a series of discussions, training videos. Going to have photographs on there, and we're also putting together a training manual for Rebel Special Forces. And everything discussed on Rogue Tactics will be the tactics, techniques, procedures, weapons, and combat of Rebel Alliance Special Forces and the New Republic. And eventually there will be material possibly covering the Resistance. But my focus will be on the Alliance. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, maybe you have a prior military background, I think you'll like what I'm going to be throwing together and sharing on there. There won't be any information there that compromises operational security for real war tactics that are used today. But there will be some fun stuff on there. So thank you guys for watching the video. Stay tuned. There's more to come.